Hi everyone, thanks for joining us this evening for our webinar focusing on the role of surgeons working with MSF projects around the world. I would like, and we would like, as MSF Australia, to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation as the traditional custodians of the land where I am today. This land always was and always will be Aboriginal land. I want to pay my respects, our respect, to their elders past, present and future. They hold the memories, traditions, culture and hopes of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples of Australia. I also take this opportunity to say kia ora to our colleagues joining from Aotearoa, New Zealand. Evening everyone, my name is Jodie Cornish and I'm a Recruitment and Training Officer with MSF Australia. I'm pleased this evening to be joined by Royal Australasian College of Surgeons Global Health Forum representative, Head of the Global Health Program, Philippa Nicholson. Hi Philippa, thanks for joining us.
Thanks Jodie. Good evening all and welcome to our Global Health Section members and fellows. I'm very pleased to join with MSF today to share information about their important work. I welcome you all to our first session on the Global Health Section, where we can take the opportunity to share information with partners, health professionals and fellows. RACS Global Health perceives access to healthcare as a human right, and we align our aims with Sustainable Development Goal 3, good health and well-being. I'm aware some of our RACS Global Health volunteers and fellows have had the opportunity to deploy with MSF, and I welcome you to share your experience on our Global Health Section Teams platform. As you'll be aware, James O'Keefe, our International Engagement Coordinator, is always happy to reach and provide more information about global health, and you can contact him on our GH Section Teams platform. With that, I will hand over to Jodie to hear more about the critical work of MSF.
Thanks very much, Philippa. So this webinar is to provide surgeons with information about MSF field placements and outline our recruitment processes. In MSF projects around the world, there are urgent needs for general surgeons with a recent caesarean experience, orthopaedic and trauma surgeons, and reconstructive or plastic surgeons. Surgeons are most often placed in Palestine, Yemen, Pakistan, Syria, Nigeria, Iraq, DRC, Afghanistan, Haiti, Chad and Cameroon, as well as other countries. Fellows with 2 years experience need to be available for a minimum of 8 weeks in the field, ideally available for up to 4 months for their first placement. 8 weeks in the field does not include travel there and back or any quarantine required. Today, we're joined by Professor Herwig Droberts, an experienced MSF field worker. He's going to share a little about his placements with MSF to date. Welcome, Herwig.
Hello, thanks very much for having me, and welcome everyone who made the effort to participate tonight.
At the end of this, at the end of our chat, we will be taking questions. So send through any you have on YouTube, the Facebook page or Twitter. Please note we're unable to answer any questions about your individual suitability online. Okay, so thanks so much for joining us, Herwig. A great place to start might be just to share with everyone a little bit about how you got to begin working with MSF and what your current role is.
So I started getting interest in MSF when I was a student. Actually, it's one of these near cliche things. Actually, when I was a student, first year, I heard somebody give a slideshow about his recent MSF experience, and that was an enlightening moment. I knew I wanted to join, but then, you know, career comes in the way, family comes in the way, children. So it took me until 2014 to finally do the interview and to apply for MSF. And they took me and then forgot about me. so I never got an invitation to join the intro days. And then I also forgot about it, and then I had some brain freeze and even joined the Navy for a while, which was not such a good idea. But in 2017, I came back to the light side and did the introduction days in late 2017 and early 2018. I went on my first mission.
Right, and I'm
Sure.
aware you've done multiple placements with MSF. Can you give us a little bit of insight about each of those?
So I did, to be honest, I did 2.5 missions. I went to Syria and I went to Gaza, which are the classic missions for orthopedic surgeons, really. And then I was supposed to go to Gaza this February, and I was literally on my way to the airport when everything was cancelled because Israel stopped all international arrivals due to COVID. So then I was sitting around at home for 6 weeks because I had taken all time off. I went to Tasmania, but I can't think that's a mission. I don't think that counts as a mission. Spending 4 weeks in Tasmania, and I hope in October I'm pegged to go to Afghanistan. So I've organized everything with my hospital, and I hope this time it works.
Great, thank you. And so, can you tell us a little bit about what day-to-day life for you was like in Syria?
So Syria was a mission in the northeast of Syria, and that was quite interesting because officially we never were in Syria. So MSF officially never was in Syria. So we had to go all hush-hush, basically at night, crossing the border, and we didn't even get this awesome T-shirt because officially I was never there. So it was a big adventure. It took us a week to get there because it was quite difficult to cross the Tigris from Turkey and Iraq and blah, blah, blah. And then we were in a hospital compound, and for 6 weeks, so I was there for 6 weeks, and we were not allowed to leave this compound. So we were about 30 expats and about 100 nationals, and we were not allowed to leave the compound, which is good and bad because it was a big compound, so you could go jogging on the hospital grounds. There were gunfights every day outside the hospital walls. And at the beginning, you get quite nervous about that, and you lie under your bed and you block the door. But after a while, you get completely used to it. In Syria, we mainly had gunshot wounds, severe burns, and people who stepped on landmines. And we were 2 surgeons. I was the orthopedic surgeon, and we had also a general surgeon. And we were basically on call every day for the duration of our stay, which sounds really bad, but to be honest, there was nothing else to do. So we were not allowed to leave the compound anyway. So while I was working a lot, I also had a lot of time. So I had all this time between operations, and when there was nothing to do, I would sometimes be in my room and watch a movie at 10 o'clock if you didn't operate. But then, of course, you get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and do some emergency. But it was a really rewarding time. First of all, the team was good. So there was 30 expats. They were all really nice. The nationals were fantastic. And I learned a lot. I was able to teach a lot. And despite being on call all the time, I had all this free time to talk to people, to read books, because you don't have anything else to do. You don't have to go to the post office. You don't have to cook dinner. You have no other things to do. So you have all this net time available, which you don't have at home. So it was an extremely challenging, scary, exciting, but extremely rewarding experience.
And so I guess days were long, but they weren't normal hours by the sounds of things. And that sounds like it was obviously very challenging in itself. It's certainly a huge team. You're talking about 100 local staff and 35, did you say? 30
national experts.
30. And so can you talk to us a little bit about working within the MSF team and just how that all works day to day? You mentioned just two surgeons. Who were you working with?
So I was working with an Indian expert surgeon who was an extremely experienced war surgeon. I was the orthopedic surgeon, and we did have 3 national general surgeons who would come on alternating days. And we also had 3 national orthopedic surgeons. And my brief was to keep the peace between orthopedic surgeons and general surgeons, because there were some tensions, like in every hospital in the world. But we were introducing flap surgery, because you need to do muscle flaps with all these landmine victims. We did lots of skin grafts for burns victims. So I was not doing big surgeries every day. I was more overseeing it, because I think that's a major point. You don't go there to do spectacular surgeries. You do that as well, but that shouldn't be the major point. The point is you teach nationals to do spectacular surgeries, so they can then do it when you are not here anymore. Because all of us, we stay for 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks maximum, and then nobody might come for another 6 weeks, and then somebody else comes. So it's important that the nationals learn how to do all the things by themselves. That's the goal, right? We also had expat anesthetists who were from India, from Italy, and from England. So from all over the world. Really, really interesting, extremely experienced people, really nice people. And we had logisticians, we had technicians, because they were also building a hospital there, not just running it, but also building it. So we had electricians, we had all these people as well. And of course, you have infectious diseases, you have nurses, you have theater nurses. All this infrastructure needs to be provided. And it was awesome. You get really jealous about the logisticians, because they are not on call and they can party. They can party a lot. Well, I had to go to bed every night because I couldn't. But it was still a very good time. We had a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, and it's a very big team, and it sounds like teamwork's essential, but it's one of the rewarding aspects as well, working with such a great diverse group. And so can you tell me, how did the work that you do here in Australia help you prepare for these placements?
Well, my background is I'm one of these European trained trauma surgeons. That's something we don't have in Australia. So in my training, I learned basically how to stop bleeding, and we learned it everywhere. But because most trauma is orthopedic, I am registered and recognized in Australia as an orthopedic surgeon. And I have the fortunate or unfortunate, that depends on what people want, I exclusively do orthopedic trauma surgery. So in my hospital in Northern New South Wales, I am the orthopedic trauma surgeon, and I run a trauma list every day. So I don't get anymore, I still get that. I see a lot of trauma that helps me. And I'm also the trauma director of the hospital. So I try to participate whenever we have a big trauma. I try to come in and I assist the general surgeon or assist the maxillofacial surgeon. So I assist them to brush up on my laparotomy and thoracotomy skills. I wouldn't want to do that, to be honest, to do a laparotomy, because I haven't done that for a living for a long time, because in Australia I'm working as an orthopedic surgeon. But you may be in a situation in MSF where you have to do it. And that can easily happen because you might be the only one. And then you have to do it.
And how did you manage, and how do you respond to that situation in the field?
Well, there's really good courses, number one. So there's a really good College of Surgeon course. That's the DSTC course, the Definitive Surgical Trauma Care course. There's also, MSF has really good courses. MSF has an excellent surgical course, which they offer once a year. And when you have a mission with MSF, MSF pays for you to go to that course. That's in Germany, that course. And at this course, you learn basically the whole range of procedures MSF does, where you basically learn how to do laparotomies and craniotomies and everything with a knife and a forceps, and that's it. No special instruments, no special implants. You have just the basics, which is what you can do with MSF, or which you have to do with MSF anyway. So you can get prepared. Plus, you usually have national surgeons, and the national surgeons, the national staff, they are usually really, really good. So make no mistake, it's not, I don't go there and I'm a superstar, not at all. The nationals are the superstars because they have to work in this environment all the time. So I learn at least as much from them. Yes, it's challenging, but I don't know. I have to say, I thoroughly enjoyed every single minute I spent on my missions. When you come back from a mission, you get evaluated by a psychologist. So that's part of MSF, that you get run by a psychologist. And this psychologist was extremely irritated that I didn't have PTSD when I came back from Syria. And I said, no, I really, really enjoyed it. Yeah, but you had big interest. Yes, but I still really, really, and by enjoy, I don't mean it was fun. It was scary, it was exciting, all these things, and you are way out of your comfort zone. But it was still, it was, the best word I can think is it was extremely rewarding, and that equals all the stress you have. And I really can't tell you a single most challenging situation, because I don't know, I was never the only surgeon. That would be really challenging. If I'm the only surgeon without national help and without anybody else's help, that would be really scary, I guess. Yeah. Because I'm like everybody else, I'm to some degree super specialized. I'm not that general.
Thank you. Right. I guess you've mentioned a little bit the security aspects.
So MSF has the principle and the philosophy that there is no armed security, because MSF treats everyone. They treat the victims and they treat the aggressors. They treat everybody who comes through the door. So the philosophy is nobody's interested in actually attacking MSF. And that works in 99.99% really well. So we had, the hospital had walls in Syria, but it was not in any way locked. So people could come in and out any way they liked. There were not guards, they were not armed, they were like porters who sat there at the entries, but they didn't hold up anyone. But still, there was never a situation. Yes, there were gunfights outside the compound, but there was never a situation where I in any way felt unsafe. Also, all these situations, you have panic rooms and you have safe rooms, and you get there's an extensive security briefing and there's extensive security guidelines, and you cannot breach them. So it's not, nobody nobody in their right mind would try to get out of the compound, obviously, to discover the town. And in Gaza, I was there when the Israelis bombed Gaza. I just arrived. And so we had to spend some time in the basement of the house, which was maybe safe, maybe not safe. But then the Israelis are extremely surgical in their aggression. So it's horrible, but it never, and it is horrible because other people get killed, but you yourself, you never really feel that unsafe, because the Israelis know they can't or don't not to bomb an MSF building, and it's with big letters written on the roof, and there's flags, and they know this is MSF. You don't bomb that.
That certainly sounds quite scary, actually, on arrival, and I can imagine that's sobering for a lot of people listening. And it is.
That shouldn't keep anyone from not going. Do not go. That this is my message. If you're okay for me to say that, do not go. And I don't mean this derogatory. Do not go with the local church organization. If you have to organize your travel, your food, your implants, your instruments, you have already lost. Do not do that. Go with a big organization, because MSF can get you there. You don't need to worry about it. How to get there? Everything's organized. Somebody cooks for you. Somebody organizes your room. You can focus on the work. And if something goes pear-shaped, they can get you out. MSF has an incredibly well organized logistic machinery. Nobody else can get you out. They can get you out. Right? So this is important. This is really important. Don't do it on your own. Don't go with small groups. Go with a big group.
Yeah, thank you very much. Here we go. So you just mentioned a little bit around accommodation and MSF, you are living and working there. Can you share a little bit about life outside of work? So, you mentioned what was your accommodation like and what did you do in that downtime? You mentioned movies, things like that. But as a team, how did you spend that time?
So I was always extremely lucky because I had my own room. When you go with MSF, you should be prepared that you share a room with someone, and that can be for 8 weeks, and then you better like this person, because otherwise it can be quite intimate. But I was always lucky, and usually as a surgeon, because you are on call, you get your own room, because you get up at most impossible hours, and if somebody else is in the room and they can't sleep because you get up, or you come back at all impossible hours, so you get your own room. I always had my own room. In Gaza, it was 5-star MSF because I even had my own ensuite. I had my own bathroom, which is amazing, with hot water. In Syria, we had a shared bathroom with cold water. But again, doesn't matter. That's what it is. You don't go on a 5-star trip. But Gaza is 5-star. I have to say that was pretty good. Life is usually pretty social. So we always try to do something on the days off. So normally in Arab countries, because they are Muslim, Friday is the day off. Friday is the Sunday. In Gaza, we would rent a house with a swimming pool, and then we would meet there and play beach volleyball and table tennis and had a barbecue. And in Syria, we couldn't leave the compound. But the logisticians and the electricians, they are sometimes here for 6 to 8 months. So they then go completely overboard. They built on the roof, they built a bar, they built a swimming pool. We had darts every day. Something else was built. It was like a gym, everything. And there were always people up there. You always find somebody to talk to. And that's really nice, because you have nothing else to do. If you don't do surgery or you don't do whatever you are supposed to do, you have all this time. I really enjoyed that, because at home, I never have time. There's always something I have to do. Pick up the car,
I see that we're almost out of time. Just one last question before we move on to some questions that I can see have come through. What advice would you give to somebody who is applying with MSF?
There is one paper which I would suggest everybody reads before they apply to do humanitarian medicine. And it's called 7 Sins of Humanitarian Medicine. I can send you the link and you can then forward it if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be fantastic. We can provide that to everybody watching.
Yeah. So this is the one paper I would read, and then ask yourself, if you do not commit these 7 sins, then you should apply. And it's like, why do you go? Do you want to go because you have bragging rights? Do you want to go because you just want to have an adventure? Don't get me wrong. I'm not a super saint. I do it because I want to do meaningful, immediate medicine, but I also want to have an adventure, and that's fair enough. You know, it is also a kick. MSF is also the sexiest medical travel agency. Full stop. But and then leave 80% complication rate behind. We all know this. So this is the one paper I would read, and then spend some time with 30 strangers in three rooms for 6 weeks. And if you enjoyed it, then you're MSF material.
Great, thank you. The criteria for surgeons is on our website. That includes, but it's not limited to, 2 years work experience since obtaining your fellowship, experience in at least one of the following areas: general surgery, orthopaedic and trauma surgery, or reconstructive or plastic surgery. For general surgeons, you must have performed at least 8 caesarean sections during the past 2 years. And as mentioned before, you need to be available to work in the field for a minimum of 8 weeks. Obviously, you need to be able to work autonomously and in those basic conditions with limited resources and materials, and you have to be willing to abide by MSF surgical protocols. So please do refer to the comprehensive list on our website. You do need to complete an application online, and there's also a skills assessment template. Once we receive your application, it's technically assessed, and if you meet the criteria, you'll be invited to interview, generally within 4 weeks of applying. Following the interview, there are several other recruitment steps, including medical and police checks and successful completion of the MSF Welcome Days course. Once you're officially recruited to the pool of field workers, it may take a while for you to be matched to a position, as there's many variables, but as surgeons are an urgent need, we do assume that would be within 6 months. All our employment terms and conditions are outlined clearly on the website, including pay rates, leave, and other terms and conditions. So just before I finish, talk a little bit about working in COVID times. So since COVID started, we have managed to bring all field workers safely back home. And the biggest delay we've experienced was around about a month for a field worker. We're doing our best to ensure that people return safely back home to Australia or New Zealand, but we can't guarantee with the specifically this week with the travel caps in Australia and also with New Zealand, which has limited spots and limited flight availability. We do have strategies to mitigate these, but we do need to say that things do change. And MSF does bear the cost of all quarantine. Okay, now I can see that it's time for questions. We've got time for questions, and one for you here, Professor Drobbets, from Josh via the website. How do you prepare for
Obviously, I try to read up on all the information I can get from MSF. I meanwhile have a big list of things I want to take to each mission, and of things I need to read, and of things I need to bring. I do have all the videos, which I find extremely useful. I have all these videos from the definitive surgical trauma care course for emergency procedures. So they are extremely useful if you quickly want to look something up, because you should bring, I don't bring books obviously because it's too much weight, but I bring everything electronic, because you should be prepared to access everything without internet. Usually you do have good internet, but it can also happen that you don't have internet for 3 days. So you should have everything with you on a USB stick or on your computer.
Thank you, Herwig. And I'll just take one more question, because we're about to wrap up. From Anna, my partner's a theatre nurse, can we go together? Thanks for your question. On first placements, MSF don't place couples. You do go as a single person. Certainly you would be both, you're encouraged to both apply, and down the track as experienced field workers, there's a slight possibility that you could go together, but certainly not something that happens generally on your first placement. So that's all we have time for this evening. MSF would like to thank the Royal Australasian College of Surgeons and Philippa Nicholson for joining us today. And a particularly big thank you to Professor Drobets for sharing your experience with us this evening.
Okay.
Then, Herwig, you can say goodnight to everyone as well. And
Sure.
you'll be inundated with people watching now at Lismore, contacting you at the hospital.
That's okay. That's okay.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Jody, sorry.
I was just going to say, so thanks. That Marta, did that go? That went for a little bit longer than 30 minutes, didn't it?
Yeah, like 35 minutes. I'm just going to end the stream, Trent, on YouTube.
Yeah, go for it.
We've got a little bit of